Welcome to episode 3, Starting Hands. Now we've already covered the basics of Texas Hold'em poker and we know where we can get a game. So I think we're ready to grab some chips, pull up a chair and start playing some poker. Starting hands is a very important part of poker because new players tend to play far too many hands. What we're going to show you today is how to be selective so that we choose the right starting hands at the right time.
Starting hands is probably one of the most important things about poker. It does depend on what position you're in and what sort of players you are up against. And I think in early position, you should be playing premium cards only. A lot of beginning players might limp in with an ace-jack, for instance, and pocket pairs lower than that, ace-king, ace-queen, have them dominated. It's not a really good hand.
The big four: ace-ace, king-king, queen-queen, ace-king. These are the ones that every poker player wants to see. It doesn't mean that you're going to win with these cards, but they are certainly a good start. Play these combination of cards in any position and you want to try and maximise the amount of money you get in the pot. Try not to play these hands too cutely. Raise. Put the pressure on your opponent and make them put money into the pot when they are behind. The last thing to remember is that the big four are very strong hands, especially against medium cards that weak players play all the time. The hand that competes best against ace-ace is 5-6 suited. That's surprising, isn't it? The danger hands for you is that when you have big cards and there are players holding small cards who are allowed into the pot with a weak bet. The best way of getting rid of players with small cards is to bet the pot properly. This is called protection and we're going to be covering that in a later episode.
A term that we're going to become familiar with around a poker table is that of slow playing. Slow playing is a concept where we play a hand very passively to increase the amount of money that goes into the pot. This is a pretty advanced poker technique and one that I wouldn't recommend for beginners.
Medium pairs: Jack-Jack, 10-10, 9-9, 8-8. These sort of hands are some of the toughest to play. What you don't want to do is lose huge amounts of money with these cards. You can play these hands in lots of position and the thing that you always want to see is another one of your cards hitting on the flop to give you a set. If, for example, you are holding a pair of sevens and another seven comes out on the flop, this is called hitting a set. This is one of the best things in poker and will usually result in you winning a large pot. You can, however, still win hands with these cards by not making a set, which is a lot different to the smaller pairs that we'll be talking about shortly. You can afford to be aggressive with these hands because you're going to be in very good shape against a player who has a small pair. You will also be in front before the flop against a player who has two overcards, say like ace-queen. When there is a lot of action prior to the flop, then you may wish to just throw these cards away. If there is a raise and a re-raise by a good player, then you must start to think that your middle pair is in a lot of trouble. Also, if you raise with, let's say, pocket tens before the flop and you get called by two players and the flop comes ace-king-jack, then you must think that you are beaten because there would be a huge chance that one of the other two players has an ace, a king or a jack. So in short, these are good cards, but not the sort of cards you want to be losing huge sums of money with. Big cards: ace-queen, ace-jack, king-queen.
You could be waiting around all night to find these. In the right set of circumstances, we have to play these medium cards. The problem is that we need to play them at the right time, and we also need to be able to lay them down when there's too much heat in the kitchen.
These cards are in the same category as medium pairs. The values of these combinations are certainly higher than average, though if they are played in suspect circumstances, they could lead you to misadventure. Basically, the trouble with playing these types of hands is that you are vulnerable against very strong hands. Small pairs: 7-7, 6-6, 5-5, 4-4, 3-3, 2-2. Small pairs are often classed as drawing hands. This means that you need to improve on your hand to win the pot. Improving with a small pair is pretty simple. If you have a pair of fives, you need to find another five on the board to give you 3 fives. Now it is true that in a heads-up confrontation or a one-on-one against a player with 2 overcards, that you may win the pot with no improvement. But for the majority of the time, especially if you're up against more than one opponent, your chance of winning the pot without improvement with a small pair is very low. So the next question is, how do you play such a hand? The best way is to try and get a look at the flop cheaply. Don't overcommit large sums of money into a pot with these small pairs. If the betting is busy early, then throw them away. Some very successful players I know say that they wait until they hit sets, and that's where they tend to make the most money. What small pairs require though is a discipline to throw them away when you don't improve. The danger cards: Ace 10, King Jack, King 10, Queen Jack, Queen 10, Jack 10.